Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Welcome to session 3. Following on from where we left off last session, the insight. And I'm sure for a lot of you, this has been quite a difficult and a hard and bitter pill to swallow. But we're over the worst of it. The insight, I am doing this to me. And it is so important to take responsibility for our actions, of how much we have contributed to our own downfall. A lot of the times I totally agree, and even from my personal experience, I can tell you all those people that made my life miserable and contributed to my physical symptoms. But along the way, on a daily basis, I have also carried on making certain choices that I shouldn't have. And as a result of it, I have found myself in many behaviors and programs that have repeated themselves due to my own actions, for example. And so you will find that happening to you also. Moving on to remorse. Now, once the insight kicks in that I am doing this to myself, we can then move on to remorse. Because now that I've recognized that, hold on, the perpetrator did what they did 40 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 months ago. But since that time, I've actually been hurting myself. I've actually been punishing myself. That is not a nice feeling. And so we need to take responsibility for what we have been doing to ourselves. And as a result of it, we want to feel genuinely sorry. And this is amazing because in our salah we have a dua at the end in at-tahiyyat. Allahumma inni zalamtu nafsi zulman kathira. Oh Allah, I have wronged myself with much wrongdoing. And this is what this is about really, is acknowledging the fact of what you have done to yourself. Not about what others have done to you. Others have been the triggers, they've been the seed from which we have grown an oak tree of abuse upon ourselves. And so you feel genuinely sorry. And allow yourself to feel bad for how you hurt yourself. And spend 5 to 10 minutes feeling it as deeply as you can. How could I do this to me? Have I done, oh my God, I did this to me. And really just go into that motion. It's all about acting out the remorse so that your body and your conscious mind can actually connect with it. Forgiveness will work best when there is remorse. And so, if you've recognized the fact that, you know what, all this time I've been blaming other people, but in reality, here's the blame. And it's not, I'm sorry if I hurt you, but rather, I'm sorry that I hurt you. And who is I and who is you? It's yourself. It's a conversation with yourself. I am telling me, I am sorry I hurt me. That I've been hurting me continuously. Morning till night, I keep putting myself down. And so that will lead us to forgiveness. And in this technique of forgiveness, there's a technique called Ho'oponopono by Dr. Hugh Len from Hawaii. And it's an amazing concept, subhanAllah. You can find his resources online and on YouTube. But in a nutshell, in a summary, Dr. Hugh was assigned as a doctor, he was assigned to a prison where only the highest caliber of inmates were kept, for the worst of crimes, murders and rapes and, the rest of it. And these prisoners in this hospital, a mental hospital as well, were so vicious and so nasty that they had to be handcuffed to their beds. And the beds were arranged such that they were like in the middle of the room, because when the doctors and nurses entered into that ward, they would walk with their back along the wall so that they wouldn't get attacked. And when Dr. Hugh was assigned a post there, he went there and he went to the to the induction and the admin, and they said, "Shall we show you the ward?" And he said, "No, I don't want to see the ward. Take me to my office." So he went to the office and he said, "Give me their files, everyone's files of the patients that are there, and I want to see who they are." And everyone's file that he opened, he'd look at their picture. And on a daily basis, he had this mantra that he did, was that he looked at the picture and he would say to the picture, "I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you." And it was as if he was communicating with them to their deeper psyche by saying to them, "I am sorry, please forgive me, I love you." And subhanAllah, within 6 weeks or 6 months or something like this, very, very short period of time, they noticed a marked change in their behavior of the prisoners, to the extent that within the 6-month period, they were unchained from their beds, that they could be trusted not to attack the doctors and the nurses, that there was a reform in their whole persona, in their behavior, in their personality. And this is so, so important to understand, that when we begin to change ourselves, it impacts our environment and the people in our environment. When we can start speaking in a loving way to other people, that you will also notice a change in their behavior. And as Muslims, we know that we have the greeting of peace, Assalamu alaikum. If we stop and we ponder on that greeting, Assalamu alaikum, and you feel it from your heart, what is it that you are saying to the other person? I wish for peace and blessings to be upon you. And that has to come from your heart. That every time we say Assalamu alaikum to people in our company and people around us, that when we say Assalamu alaikum, we want this peace and this blessing to come upon these people. That everyone around us to feel that inner peace, but it has to come from our hearts. And so what we find is that every time we give salam to someone, it's just verbatim, it's just on our lips, it has not come from the heart. But try saying Assalamu alaikum to people and you really mean it from the depths of your heart. Oh Allah, I want your salam to come down and rain upon this person. And you will begin to notice, subhanallah, how the demeanor changes. And so in the same way, this Dr. Hugh did this with his patients. And so what we are taking from this technique is how we can actually work on ourselves. And so for this forgiveness exercise, it's actually a self-forgiveness. We want to forgive ourselves first. Is that you feel the depth of that remorse, that I have continued to hurt myself, that I've hurt myself for the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it may be. And then imagine having a conversation with yourself. And the best way to do this would be on your phone. Switch on your selfie camera, okay? And look into the camera. Turn the camera to yourself and look at yourself and look at your flaws, okay? And as you are doing that, you are now beginning to speak to yourself. And so look at your reflection and say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. And already as I'm doing this, I can see I'm not looking at me, I'm looking around me. But can I look directly into my eyes and say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. And once I've said this, you stay quiet and you imagine that your reflection is saying the same back to you. No, I am sorry, please forgive me, I love you. And so you will say this back and forth, until it becomes easier to say, until it becomes easier to look at yourself in your reflection. And that is when a level of acceptance will start to be sinking in. Once you've done that, you can now simply say, I forgive you and I love you. I forgive you and I love you. And your reflection will also say, I forgive you and I love you. I forgive you, I love you. Okay, brilliant. And so, once that becomes easy enough to say and you start to feel more calmer within yourself, you can simply move over to I love you. And your reflection will say, I love you. And you will say, I love you and I love you. And as those words are being said, I want you to deeply feel the impact of those words in yourself, of what it means to say, I love you. And a lot of the times people's traumas are parts of your memory and parts of your past that you do not want to associate with because you are too hurt, angry, ashamed, or guilty. And in that sense, subhanAllah, connect yourself through this exercise of self-forgiveness. Because when you do this ultimately, when you can say, I love you, this leads us into the sixth part, which is self-love. And this will naturally come upon you once the previous stage has been done properly. And I really, really deeply pray from the bottom of my heart that you find this within yourself, to be able to say that, you know what, I love myself and each and every part of myself that was harmed, that was hurt, that was downtrodden, that was walked upon, that was abused. I love every part of myself because Allah has made me, and because I am from the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, I am the Khalifa of Allah on this earth. I love myself in every aspect of my being. Leads us directly to acceptance. And when you reach that level of acceptance, and from the previous stages as well, is when you reach that level of self-love, that self-love is just pouring into you. You can feel that exuberance and you can feel that lightness in your body. I want you to pinch that moment also and anchor that feeling of self-love in your body. Because when you've reached that position, pinch, I'm in a state of ecstasy. I'm in a state of self-love. Pinch that in. And once that has been pinched in, you move into acceptance. And acceptance is where there should be no overwhelm at the previous intensity. That you can look back at that incident and not feel overwhelmed. That you will not cry, that you will not feel upset. And feel it and continue on a daily basis to feel that self-love deeply and increase it through meditation. Close your eyes. How does it feel? How does that self-love feel? I can feel it pouring out from my heart. I can feel it rushing up into my head and into my arms. I feel this lovely little tingle and I've got a silly smile on my face. Just keep visualizing it over and over again until it becomes part of you. And so, inshallah, go through those processes. I know it's difficult, but believe me, get this done and you're over the hill. And I will see you in the next session. Jazakallah khair.